Welcome to Concepts in 3 Minutes or Less. In this video, we'll be looking at algorithms. You'll find references in the Applied Computing Study Design 2020 to 2024 in several places, but particularly as definitions. Insertion and quicksort and linear and binary search algorithms are the ones you've studied, but you are very likely to be asked to write an algorithm or desk check or debug one. Writing an algorithm is just a way to organize and communicate your thinking. I still like the traditional flowchart for this task, though they have fallen out of vogue. One reason is that they don't show loops very well. Nazi-Schneiderman or NS diagrams are another method which cater well for loops, but the assumed standard for our subject is pseudocode, meaning false code. Even so, there have been many variations, but because Visual Basic was a common programming language used by teachers, the pseudocode took on a very VB feel. Modern pseudocode looks a lot more like C or Java. Let's take a closer look. This is an algorithm for an insertion sort. Indentation takes a strong role, as does meaningful variable naming. Note also the use of the arrow, which is known as the assignment operator, since it assigns a value to a variable. This avoids the confusion with using the equals sign, which is used only for comparisons. There is no problem with adding annotations or comments to enhance your algorithm. I've color-coded the variables here for clarity, but that's excessive. All coding words are in uppercase by design, but variable names are camel case. I and J are typical loop counter variables, and this goes way back to the days of Fortran, where the letters I through to N were used as integers. How things have moved on. I want to go through some coding tips. The sample I'll use is a Caesar cipher, which encodes a word by changing each letter to the one before it, thus. Here's my first pass. There's too much repetition, and that indicates that a loop is needed. With a loop in place, you'll notice that it only does a 5-letter word. We may get longer words, so let's generalize it. The word length can now vary as required, but I do need to get rid of that monstrosity character ASCII letter -1 and isolate it to make it into a function. This is so that we can help the program to be more extensible. It's also very important to take certain pieces of code out into functions because we might need to add more processing. What do we do with spaces, for example? If any further letter processing is needed, it can now be added to the function and not affect the rest of the code. This helps with maintainability, reliability, and robustness of the code. Something super important now, always put a begin and an end around a block of code. This very much increases the readability of your code. That was a very quick run through of a very much bigger subject, but I do hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching and keep an eye out for more over the coming weeks.